Hi, I'm Gary May and this is Made to Persuade. What if there was a way that you could present your product, service and idea in such a way that it prevented your prospects from objecting to what you've just said? And not only that, but whatever you've told them, they take as 100% factually accurate, which by the way, it should be. It just so happens that there is such a strategy and it's called lying. Yeah, lying. What I'm going to be talking about, the art of lying, is not what you're expecting. So rest assured, we're not talking about being dishonest. We're not being deceitful to prospects or existing clients. Okay, so what is this? Let me give you it in full format. If you start a sentence with a word that ends in ly, the effect of doing so is that whatever comes next is virtually impossible to object to, and not only that, whatever you contain within that statement will be taken as factually accurate. Now, what do I mean by words that end in ly? So we've got surprisingly, unsurprisingly, unfortunately, categorically, undoubtedly, historically, typically, currently, factually, technically. There are about 4,500. I think they're called adverbs if you look them up on Google, for example. Other search engines available. Anyway, so if you start a sentence or a statement with a word that ends in ly, the effect of doing so is that what comes next is virtually impossible to object to, and not only that, whatever you contain within that statement will be taken as factually accurate. Now, what do I mean by virtually impossible to object to? Well, unfortunately for me and for you, there are some absolute idiots out there who will object just because they want to object, because that's the type of character that they are. I can never overcome those people, and nor would I ever want to. They can do one. Anyway, let me give you a couple of examples. I want you to consider what would be a logical objection to these statements. Number one. Interestingly, what we're going to go through now will be the most important thing you'll do all day. Is there a logical objection to that statement? Well, I don't think so. The only thing that could possibly come back is how or why, which is not an objection, is it? It's permission to carry on. Thank you. Now, what about this one? Unsurprisingly, the biggest rise we're seeing as a company is people migrating from X product over onto Y. Is there a logical objection to that? There isn't, is there? People cannot object. So, just one more. Statistically, with a response rate of under 15 minutes, makes us one of the top performing companies in the UK. Statistically, with a response rate of under 15 minutes, makes us one of the top performing companies in the UK. Is there a logical objection to that statement? There isn't. There really isn't, because the brain cannot construct an objection to it other than how and why, which are not objections, they're permission to carry on. Thank you. So, am I the only person to know this? No. Are there other people using it? Yes. Have you ever been caught out by this, or influenced or persuaded by this? Yeah. For example, some of you, if you're into your beer, or you don't even have to be into beer, there's a company called Carlsberg. I'm sure everyone worldwide has heard of Carlsberg. What's their slogan though? Probably the best lager in the world. Probably the best lager in the world. We've got a company here in the UK called Mr. Kipling. What's their tagline? Exceedingly good cakes. We've got Fox's Glacier Mint, clearly the better mint. We've got Marks and Spencer's, simply better food. The list goes on and on and on. These big corporations have known this for years. And of course it makes sense. If they're using a strapline, using a tagline, and they know that your brain cannot object to it, and whatever they tell you, you take as factually accurate, amazing. So, I want to give you some research. And the research goes like this. Carlsberg, probably the best lager in the world. In 1969, what they wanted to discover whether that tagline would work in the way that I've just expressed it to you. So what they did is they assembled 100 this is very important by the way, 100 16-year-old boys that had never sampled beer before. How that works I will never know, but trust me, they did. So 100 16-year-old boys that had never sampled beer. The boys were led into a research room, whereupon at the back of the room they were presented with 4 different brands of lager in different cans. All the boys had to do was to walk up to each can, take it off the shelf, have a look at it, put it back. Next one, look at the branding, put it down, next one, next one. Then, once they looked at all four, they had to go out and tell the researcher at the exit door which brand of lager they most wanted to sample for the very first time. Interestingly, 97.2 of that entire group, they all chose Carlsberg. Any ideas why? Well, of course, probably the best lager in the world. And if you've never sampled beer before, then surely you're going to go for the one that's probably going to be the best you've ever tried. Okay, so in order for you to be able to use this yourselves, let's just go back one step. How many boys were there? 100, right? How old were they? Well, they were 16. How many brands of beer were they exposed to? Well, that was 4. And as a statistic, how many of them wanted to sample Carlsberg? Well, that was 97.2. 97.2 of 100 boys. Doesn't make sense, right? It's an impossibility. But notice how your brain didn't even question it. Because I said the boys looked at the 4 brands, they walked out, told the researcher which brand of lager they most wanted to sample for the very first time. And then, interestingly, 97.2% of that entire group, they all wanted to sample Carlsberg. Any ideas why? And I know your brains went, 97.2, that's quite a lot, wonder why? See? So even with an impossibility, the way that that phrase was structured, with a word ending in ly at the beginning, and it has to be the beginning, it prevents you and your prospects and your clients from creating objections. Okay, so finally, before we end this video, have you ever been looking at someone and you're having a conversation with them and they've said something to you that you don't necessarily agree with? Now, at that precise moment, your brain and your neurology will do something remarkable. At that precise moment, as soon as you take offence or you object to what someone said, your brain does this amazing thing in as much as it shuts off your hearing to enable you to go internal to construct your counter argument. So when they finally shut up with their stupid point, then you've already planned what you're going to say and you verbalise it. This is what's called paying lip service. We watch someone's mouth move, but we're not actually listening to them because our brain has shut our hearing off so that we can construct our counter argument. How many times could this be happening in the body of your face-to-face presentation? Alternatively, how many times could this be happening during your telephone calls? You have no idea. All you have to do is to say something your prospects don't agree with. It shuts off their hearing. They're no longer listening to you because they're planning their counter argument. You shut up and then suddenly they have this well-rehearsed, well-prepared objection. But now you know why. Imagine a scenario if you're able to present your product, service and idea. Don't overdo it. Your product, service and idea with words that end in ly at the start of the sentence. Present your product, present your statistic, knowing full well that they will not be creating objections, and whatever you've told them, they'll be taken as factually accurate. What an amazing thing for anyone that's in influence, persuasion, or in the selling environment. So I'm Gary May, this was Made to Persuade, and I really hope you've enjoyed and learned something from this video. If you want to keep up to date with the latest strategies, ideas, and the latest research on influence and persuasion, then please subscribe to the channel below, like this video, and share with your family, friends, and colleagues. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.